only focus on the introductions and send you home to study some more. These introductions are lessons learned from the events of October 7th and the war that ensued. In the past 2 years, we've been struggling in Israel, but not only in the greater region of the Middle East and even in the global arena. And there's some very powerful lessons that I want to pinpoint and highlight, because that is the next step, the next phase. We are now hoping and praying that tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, there will be a deal that will be signed and the hostages will return home, and God willing, the war will be over. Yes, we should all pray for that. But that is just the beginning. If the war in Israel is over tomorrow, that doesn't mean that everything that we've been facing in the last 2 years is going to go away. And those are the things I want to talk about. The events in the Middle East are very confusing. They can send even the toughest students into a whirlwind of confusion of what's true and what's not true and how to make sense of everything. And the first place that I would start is with understanding the geography. Israel is the center of the ancient world, the biblical world, I should say. It's the center of the biblical world, which is the foundation, the cornerstone of Western civilization. To go anywhere from anywhere in the ancient world, you have to go through Israel. From Rome to India, you have to go through Israel. From Egypt to Mesopotamia, from Greece to Yemen, to Africa, you have to go through Israel. It's not a coincidence that Israel becomes the epicenter from where ideas spread all over the world. Kings and pharaohs and emperors will cross paths, often swords. Flavors and scents will combine, faiths are born. And from here, they will go out to the rest of the world. But it's not just a physical center. Because of Israel's centrality in the Christian world, which is the foundation of the West, Israel plays a role also in the mind and the spirit of Western civilization. This is a map from the early 16th century. The New World has just been discovered. Terra Nova. Now, of course, it's not an accurate map, but it depicts the imagined Jerusalem. Sometimes you might ask yourselves, why is Israel getting so much attention in international media, disproportionate to any other conflict around the world? There are more journalists in Israel than all of Africa combined. 50-something countries have less journalists than Israel has, international journalists. Why is that? It's the role, the imagination. You see, for hundreds, even thousands of years, Jerusalem, Israel, grew not only in the lives, physical lives, but in the imagination of Western civilization. And from there is also its power. And so the centrality of Jerusalem, the ability to imagine Jerusalem, is also what gives people the imagination or the ability to imagine everything about Jerusalem, good or bad, whether it's connected to reality or not. Some people think its streets are paved in gold, and some people think that it's an apartheid state. They're both wrong, by the way. So that's also part of what we're going to be talking about. Introduction number 1. If we are to understand the world the way it is, we have to cease the misunderstandings that lead to catastrophe. It's not just misinformation that we communicate to the other side as a tactic or strategy of war. Right? We know that we try to send out misinformation to confuse the enemy. It's also misinformation we tell ourselves. If we don't tell ourselves the truth about our adversary, we will never develop the tools and the abilities to face them. It's the misunderstandings and the miscalculations that Israel had toward Hamas that brought us the catastrophe of October 7th. We thought that they were contained. We thought that they didn't have the ability to carry out what they said they would carry out. And even if they tried, we thought that we have the technology and the superiority, the military superiority, to stop them. We were wrong. It's catastrophically wrong. But it's not just that. They too miscalculated. What we call the Iranian axis, the axis of evil, the axis of the radical Islamist jihadi world that surrounded Israel and believed that the Israeli society is like spiders' cobwebs. They can be removed very easily. They believe their story they told themselves about Israel, that the Jews are crusaders, usurpers, colonizers that can be fought off and go back to wherever they came from. And they were wrong about that too. And that miscalculation is what brought upon the catastrophe to themselves. We don't only have to know our enemy, we have to know ourselves. Who are we? What do we stand for? What are the values? What's the red line that we will not allow to be crossed? We have to understand where we are. Who are the actors in our neighborhood? What do they believe in? This is what the Iranians called the Ring of Fire. They created you hear this on the news a lot, but this is what it actually looks like. They created proxy armies, essentially Iranian forward command post divisions with weapons, with rockets and missiles and troops surrounding Israel with a ring of fire, ready to pull the trigger when the time comes. And when that time came and Hamas pulled the trigger, the others weren't ready. That's their miscalculation. I should say thank God for that. Because had they combined the fronts the way they said they would, we'd be in a whole different story today. But that's only the beginning. Because the story is not Israel. And so again, I don't want to focus on the war in Israel because the story is not Israel. The Iranians need to get rid of Israel, or needed because of their ideology, like this radical Shia ideology. Getting rid of Israel, getting rid of the Jews is the necessary step for the return of the hidden imam and the reconstitution of their global caliphate. You think it's something that only they believe in Iran? Well, let me tell you something. You're about to have a mayor that believes that too.
That's right.
And that's the point. Getting rid of Israel is a stepping stone, a springboard for the Iranians. It's the wind in their sails to get the entire Arab and Muslim world behind them so they can go west, so they can execute the plan for a global jihad, for a global caliphate, and introduce their way of life to the rest of the world. Israel is just the appetizer. You're the main course. We have to understand the truth about size and relevance. And Israel, you think that there's a joke in Israel when the Olympics in Beijing, in China, took place a few years ago, and there were Israelis walking around, and Chinese people asked them, how many people are there in Israel? And they answered back then, it was like 7 or 8 million. And said, no, not here in China, in Israel. That's how many. From Israel to India, you can fit the entire United States. That's how small the region is and how big the United States is. Okay, but it's a very, very important to understand the size of the area. Between New York and Washington, you can fit Israel there. It's a very, very small country, and that's a very, very important distinction when we talk about strategy and dangers and threats. Those were supposed to be hidden, I'm sorry. But the next question, know thy enemy. Who is Hamas? What is Hamas? Well, they are the Palestinian extension of the Islamic Brotherhood. What's the Islamic Brotherhood? We need to answer these questions, and these are the questions that nobody is asking properly in the West. Nobody is asking them not because they're dumb or silly or stupid. It's because they know the answer is frightening. And that's a direction they don't want to look. That's the dark corner in the forest that they're ignoring. That's where the monsters lay. Israel will exist and will continue to exist until it's obliterated by Islam as those that became a horde. Not my words, their words. This is part of the Hamas charter. Again, don't believe me. Look it up. Yale University, Avalon Project, many documents they have there. This is one of them. And I recommend you read. It's an important read. Know thy enemy. Read the Hamas charter. How? How will they get rid of Israel?
Where do you find it?
By killing them.
Exactly.
Part of the Quran, part of the Hadith, the idea that every Jew must be confronted and killed wherever they are.
Shadow. I said, what do I find?
We talk about genocide. Everybody accuses Israel of genocide, a false accusation. But this is genocidal intent. This is what it looks like. How? By committing yourself to death. I saw an interview with a hostage that was released a few weeks ago. The interview a few weeks ago was released in one of the earlier release deals. He said that one time, one of the terrorists that was holding him asked him, "Tell me something. Why do you Jews, why do you care about life so much?" It was a genuine question. It was a genuine question because we, and here I talk about the we in the Judeo-Christian world, in the Dharmic civilization, we care about life. We ask, why is there suffering in life? Because we want to deal with that. We ask about justice in this world because we want to deal with injustice. We care about life. This is an idea. This is an ideology that believes that life begins at death. And the sacrifice and the death is the passageway, is the path towards paradise. And who goes to paradise first? The innocent. Who is the innocent? Who is innocent in our world? He who among us without sin cast his first stone. That's a Christian thing. Never mind. Who are the innocent? Children. Children, innocent. Think about this for a second. And this is the hard concept here for us in the West to understand, which is why they're not asking these questions, because the answers are too terrifying. It's hard for us to grasp this idea. If the children die, it's not a tragedy. Why? Because they're going to heaven. They're called the birds of paradise. They're going straight to heaven to meet the Prophet and meet Allah and be in the bosom of God right away. So if the children die, it's not a terrible tragedy. Their words, not mine. This idea that through martyrdom, through the blood of the infidel, you can get to a paradise is a cornerstone of this ideology. And we have to understand this in order to be able to develop the tools to face this challenge in the future. It's not just happening in the Middle East. Today, the Islamic Brotherhood, Al Jazeera, Qatar, is pushing this agenda all over the world. You know where Al Jazeera is not shown? In the Arab world. Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, and Jordan, and the UAE, and Bahrain, they banned Al Jazeera because of their radical ideology. Where is Al Jazeera shown without any filter?
United States.
Okay? In Western Europe and here in the United States. This is not about the war in Israel. It's about the war that's happening right here, right now. Know thy enemy. The second introduction, these are the miscalculations on both sides that led to the catastrophe that we're in, but I want you to take a look at this. This is a real X account. His name is Mohammed Smiri from Gaza, but I want you to take note of the timestamp.
7:10.
This is October 7th, 2023. When did the attack start? 6:29. Now, hell is happening now where I live. Pray for us, Gaza. Not a single Israeli soldier has fired a single shot yet. They're still literally dying in their beds at this point. The attack started 4 minutes ago. It'll take another 48 hours for Israel even to contain the Hamas terrorists inside Israel, and 3 weeks before a single Israeli crossed the border into Israel. So what is he talking about? This is a small little telltale fingerprint of a much bigger project. And that's the second introduction. We're facing a war of narratives. There is a war of narrative that is happening that is trying to reshape reality into something entirely different. This narrative it didn't start now. It didn't start now. It's been going on for 50 years. It's been going on since the Soviet Union began psyops against the West back in the mid-60s. When they realized they can't really win by force, they decided to try to subvert society. When they targeted the state of Israel after 67, realizing that Israel will be always part of the Western Bloc, they started to paint Israel as Zionism, as racism. The Zionist as the outpost of Western colonialism. And they began pushing this agenda forward. It added to the new ideas of postmodern thoughts and philosophies that became popular in the academia. First, only in the academia. Nobody took them seriously. In the last 30 years, it's been Qatari money and other foreign countries who have been stacking universities with professorships and scholarships and students and research facilities. The entire epistemology has been reshaped. The way data, the way knowledge is organized to create a new reality from this narrative. And in this narrative, the oppressor-oppressed paradigm, the idea that Western world is the worst, is responsible for slavery and colonizing and oppression and stealing, and the idea that power is the only way to look at human relationships. And in all that, Israel is the lightning rod. Israel is a lightning rod that, if it is taken down, everything else will be taken down. And that's the narrative which is being forced upon us. 3 big lies. There are lots of lies, but there are 3 big ones. I'm not going to go into all of them because, again, it's a much longer lecture. The idea that Israel is mistaken is not a controversial thing. Criticizing Israel is not wrong or is not a problem. Open an Israeli newspaper. You'll find plenty of criticism of the Israeli government and its policies. Any democracy, any country can be criticized legitimately. That's fine. Where's the line crossed? When criticism goes into delegitimization. If Israel is guilty of these things, genocide, apartheid, colonialism, forced starvation, deliberate killing of children, then Israel is indefensible. And trying to do so is reprehensible. The attempt to paint Israel as the worst country on earth worse than the Nazis, right? Because the Nazis didn't know better. But the Jews, they should know better. They were victims of genocide. They should know better. This is not about criticism of Israeli policy or what Israel does. It's a criticism of what Israel is. And if Israel is guilty of all these things, A, it doesn't have a right to exist. And B, if Israelis are killed or Jews that support them are killed, they had it coming. Right? That's why this is so dangerous and so pernicious and so malevolent. And that's why the accusations against Israel are not about specific policies, but about this. You hear, a settler, colonial, ethno-state. That's all these big words. None of them are real. None of them actually match the reality. We'll get to that later on. I'm just going to do this quickly because I do want to share a little bit with you. We don't have much time. This is what genocide looks like. This is what genocide looks like on a graph, population. Okay? It's what the Armenians' population looked like after World War I. Cambodia, those of us are old enough to remember when we were kids, and we didn't finish our meal, my mom would say there's starving children in Cambodia, right? So that's that genocide. Then it happened in Ethiopia. This is Rwanda. This is what genocide looks like for real. And of course, the Jewish population, of course. This is what genocide looks like on a graph. And this is the standard population graph of a genocide. This is what the population of the Palestinian territories look like. Okay, now it's very easy to see the difference. There's a change here. What's this, 1967? This is where Israel takes over the West Bank of the Gaza Strip. Right, so there's an improvement, and a marked improvement in the quality of life. But you'll tell me, okay, that's still 2023, and then the war started. So again, that's not what they're saying. They're saying Israel's been genociding the Palestinians for 75 years. But never mind that. Let's put that aside. But you'll tell me, but so many people have been killed. It must be genocide. Now, it wasn't until now, but now it is. That's not what defines genocide. Genocide is not about the number of people who gets killed. It's about the intent to wipe the entire population out. If Israel had intended to wipe out the entire population, would have done so in like a week or two. If we are trying to do a genocide, we really suck at it. Really, it's terrible. But let's go back to the numbers. I don't want to minimize the tragedy of the death in Gaza. There is a terrible, terrible tragedy happening in Gaza. Thousands of people have been killed in the last 2 years as a result of this war. War is the most horrible human construct. Horrible. And we must pray and we must strive to minimize the suffering and minimize civilian casualties as much as possible. And I'm going to argue that no one in the modern world, no one in history, no army in history has done more to minimize civilian casualties than the Israeli army had in this specific war. And the numbers, these are just recent wars of the few that are in the last 10 years. There are others with much more higher casualty rates than the Gaza war. Nobody's calling them a genocide. Remember, it's not about the actual accusation, it's about the delegitimization. I'll go even further. The way wars are measured is by the ratio of combatants and non-combatants. That's how international humanitarian law works, although nobody asks that question in any other war except for this one. Israel has been able to achieve a ratio of 1 to 1.5 civilians to combatants killed in urban warfare in the most difficult, unprecedented battlefield in history. 500 miles of kilometers of tunnels built under Gaza through civilian infrastructure, utilizing civilian infrastructure, deliberately placing civilians in front of advancing armies for the purpose of getting them killed. Remember the earlier slide about death and about it's not so tragic? That's from their perspective, but they also know that the West is very sensitive to this. The idea of human rights is now taken, emptied of content that used as a weapon against the West, against Israel, knowing how sensitive it is to the death of civilians and how the world will turn on Israel very, very quickly. The Americans and the British have been able to do 1 to 1.5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 4. The UN numbers are 1 to 9. Not only is it not a genocide, not only is it not the biggest tragedy or the biggest war casualty count ever, as someone CNN would like to tell you, but Israel should be awarded a medal for minimizing civilian casualties more than any other conflict in modern time. But Uli, what about the ethnic cleansing? Well, the numbers show that the population of Palestinians is only growing. This is what ethnic cleansing looks like. But this is Jews who are displaced from Arab countries since 1948 until today. The Middle East was full of Jews. Full of them, more than 1 million. They're all gone. That's what ethnic cleansing looks like. So so that's just the accusation of genocide, which is very easy to debunk, but you have to actually care about the facts. The idea of colonial, again, I'm not going to go through this because it's a very, very long history, but if you know a little bit about history, the first mention of Israel, 1206 BC, in a stela in Egypt that mentions the people of Israel as an ethnos, as a people, not a city-state, a people. But this says the Meneftach Pharaoh destroyed all of Israel, left it no seed. It's fake news. But still, it's there. This idea of colonization, everybody thinks that the Jews are not indigenous to Judea, just doesn't know history. Jews are the indigenous people of the land. It does not mean they're the only ones that get to live there, but they certainly have a right to live there no less than anybody else. And certainly not to be called colonizers. First temple, second temple, by the rivers of Babylon, the return of Zion, the rebuilding of the temples, the birth of Christianity. Jesus says, Bethlehem, a Jewish town in Judea. Again, you need to really, really make an effort to twist, to lie, to fabricate history in order to make the case that the Jews are colonizers in Judea, in the land of Israel. Moving forward, the exile. This is my favorite Roman emperor to hate. Adrian, with an H, the guy that destroyed Judea, 500,000 to 700,000 people that were killed in his squashing of the Bar Kokhba revolt in 132 AD. Scattered the rest of the Jews all over. Ever wonder why there are Jews everywhere? All over the world? This guy. There were Jewish communities in other places, in Athens, in Alexandria, in Babylon, Persia, in Rome, of course, in big cities, but the scattering of Jews all over the Roman Empire, all the way to India. This guy. Okay? Not only that, he erased the name Judea from the maps. He wanted to disassociate the Jews from Judea. He erased the name Judea and renamed the land Provincia Palestina. Palestine is the Roman name. It's the name of the colonizer, the European colonizer of the land. There's no P in Arabic. Just saying. Okay? So that is where the name comes from. The name is used mostly by Europeans until today. And today, again, the accusation of colonizer against Israel is laughable when you consider all the other people who actually colonized this land. And all of them are colonizers except for the Jews. The idea of apartheid, again, I don't want to dive into it too much in depth. Though, how many people have been to Israel? Great. Of all the people who didn't raise their hands, how many of you are going to Israel next year with me? Okay. Awesome.
I wish.
We're organizing a tour. You should all sign up. The idea, you need to be in Israel for about 5 minutes, have 2 eyes and a half a functioning brain to understand that the accusation Israel is an apartheid state is ridiculous. Absolutely, absolutely ludicrous. We can go into many, many examples. Again, it's not a real accusation. It's an attempt to delegitimize Israel. If Israel is like apartheid South Africa, what happened to apartheid South Africa? Dismantled. And so must Israel. Okay, that's the tactic. We need to know about the borders. We're not going to go into all this in depth right now. The borders of Israel, the changing borders of Israel, from the partition plan, the first time the Arabs rejected a Palestinian state, to 1967, the second time the Palestinians rejected a Palestinian state, to 1979, the third time the Palestinians rejected a Palestinian state, and so on and so forth. Israel's borders today, and that brings us to Gaza. For 19 years, between 48 and 67, Gaza was under Egyptian rule. From 48 to 67, the West Bank was under Jordanian rule. That's where the name comes from. It's the West Bank of the River Jordan. Nobody suggested making those territories a Palestinian state. The idea of creating a Palestinian state, Palestinianism, if you will, is not really about creating a Palestinian state. Because if it was, they'd had one a long time ago. It's about rejecting the essence of a Jewish state. It's not that they want to build a state, they just want us not to have one. Okay? And that's what we're seeing here. In 2005, Israel created a de facto Palestinian state in Gaza by withdrawing and pulling out of the of the Gaza Strip, and 4 settlements in the West Bank at the same time. All they had to do was turn on the electricity in the greenhouses after Israel left and create, within a week, they would be exporting cherry tomatoes, strawberries, and tulips to Europe. Instead, they destroyed them and used all the aid and all the money and all the support from the international community to build a terror state. And that led us to October 7th. The magnitude of October 7th is what changed Israel forever. It's the idea that no longer Israelis no longer believe that they can live peacefully with the Palestinians under these conditions. What are these conditions? The belief that Israel must be eliminated. The way they educate the children about the destruction of Israel and the killing of Jews is not something that we can accept or live next to. We are fighting still 1948. Right? We're still fighting our war of existence. I want you to take out your phones and take a picture of the screen. This is, after you take a picture, I want you to put away that photo in your hidden file on your phone, because you are never to look at these websites. I forbid you from looking at these websites because I want you to sleep and have a good night's sleep. But one day you will encounter somebody who will tell you, it didn't really happen. They're faking it, all those Jews. They control the media. They faked it. It was a false flag operation. They killed their own to give them an excuse to go in. This is the documentation of the atrocity of Hamas. This website is not even allowed in Israel. You can't open it if you have an Israeli IP address. This I want you to watch. This is on YouTube. Screams Before Silence about the sexual assault. There's no graphic images in it, but there's verbal testimonies, which are very, very important. So I want you to watch this. But all this is for when one day you encounter somebody who says, no, it didn't happen. You will sit them down, you'll open these websites, and you'll watch their response.
Sorry, I have to ask you in the middle of the thing, but I'm immigrant, and with the Trump situation, I can be afraid. No, it's related to this because of my safety. If I watch this video, FBI will not be after me?
No.
My safety?
No. There's nobody's monitoring who watches these websites.
Okay. I don't want FBI after me.
Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. The CIA.
The third introduction, and this is where I'll finish. What we are witnessing since October 7th, there's a great movie documentary called October 8th. This explosion of anti-Semitism. And I'm going to implore upon you to stand up against anti-Semitism, not because I want you to save Jews. Jews will worry about themselves. You need to stand up to anti-Semitism because anti-Semitism doesn't end with the Jews. You
Exactly.
need to stand up to anti-Semitism because anti-Semitism is a canary in the coal mine. It's a lightning rod. It's a red flag. It's a flare. Come for the Saturday people, then they come for the Sunday people, and then you know this because they're coming for you even before that. This idea that Jews cannot live safely in any given land is the beginning of the breakdown of a society. Jews that can, in a place where Jews can live safely, that's a society, that's a community that is able to contain the different. If Jews can no longer be safe, that's the beginning of a breakdown of society. That's what anti-Semitism symbolizes. Fight anti-Semitism, not because I want you to save the Jews, but I want you to understand that it is self-preservation. It is Western self-defense. Do you think this woman, she's a fifth year medical student. Do you think she thinks herself a good person? Herself, she thinks about herself. Of course she does. But she feels very comfortable smiling, holding up a sign like this. Because she believes the Jewish state, not the Jews, the Jewish state is what stands between her and her fantastical utopian world. The Jews always stand between whoever hates the Jews and their utopia and their paradise. I'm going to end here and hand over the mic to Adele.
Great presentation.
Bear with me for a moment as I change the font. News, all this fake media. I'm Adele Nazarian, by the way, today. Director of Communications and Legislative Outreach for Hindu Action, and also a geopolitical analyst. And it's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. Thank you for being here this evening. So I'm going to give you a brief history of what the Hindu diaspora community has gone through that is a very uniting force between the Jews and the Hindus that many of you may not know about. So misinformation, Ori talked about that. I kind of equate it to giving sugar to a child. Erodes your neural pathways, it destroys your brain. I have a 1 year and 4 month old little girl. I don't give her any sugar except for naturally occurring. I don't give her screen time. This is literally what they do with the disinformation campaigns. I'm sure that many of you have not seen a map like this, and you may not know that Indians and Hindus included, that for over 5,000 years, Hindu artifacts have appeared in what is beyond present-day India. In fact, this is the oldest Sanskrit tablet that has existed that actually mentions Hinduism. In fact, it is a Mitanni king, Dushrata, who, this is 56 years after Moses and the Jews exited Egypt, presented this to the pharaoh at the time, Amenhotep, as a kind of a doctrine between both nations. And this mentions the Hindu deities in this. So this was actually found in modern day Syria. And I'm going to rush through this because I don't want to bore you, and I want to kind of make sure that I touch upon things in a very, very general way. Over here, you can see how there's this map right over here where the green is. That shows where Hindu civilization was basically contributing to the overall GDP of the world. You can see that this whole chunk here is accounting for over 50% of the GDP of civilization. Here you have where the Islamic conquestors come in. And after that, you can see how little that becomes, how it drops. It's drastic. And you see this theme occurring throughout history. Anywhere that Hindus have been, civilization has been peaceful, it's been thriving, there has been opportunity for growth, for opportunity. Once the Islamic conquestors come in, there has been a drop in that civilization. There's been a truncation of that success. There has been, unfortunately, annihilation and just very, very negative consequences. So of course, when you look at the Jewish Exodus experience, a lot of them went to, a nice number of them went to India. They were welcomed with open arms. There was no discrimination there. They were welcomed, assimilated as part of society, able to practice their religion freely. And there are Hindus that are still in India, Jews rather, that are still in India today. I know quite a few myself. And it's beautiful that the culture was able to be preserved. If any of you have not been to India yet, I highly recommend it. It's a really magical place. And Israel also, you have to go to Israel. I'm just gonna go through these. I want to point your attention to this slide here. If you'll see Megasthenes in Indica, he made an observation. He was a Greek ambassador to the Mauryan Empire. He basically went to India and noticed something remarkable. Back during his BCE, before Common Era, there was a lot of slavery. There were people who were being used in the global slave trade. The only nation that did not enslave people, according to his observation, which was very accurate, was India. The Indians did not have slaves. And this goes back to the basic tenets of Hinduism, Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, and the basic principles as to why, even during the Islamic conquests, the Hindus were able to maintain their faith, be welcoming, but also adapt and adjust, right? So it was a very, very incredible observation. Uri spoke about the 3 big lies regarding Judaism, the misinformation, all of that. Well, it happens that our Hindu brothers and sisters have a very similar theme in common. The 3 big lies in Hinduism: the lie of colonialism, the lie of genocide, and the lie of caste. We're going to get into those. Colonialism, of course, you can see that there was the invasion by the Islamists, by the Muslims, and this is, I can send everyone the PDF if you want. I just want to bore everyone with this. So, go ahead.
I would like the PDF.
I will absolutely send it to you. I'd love to.
Thank you.
The Mughal Islamic conversions that resulted in proselytization, forced conversions, killings, death, submit or die. You have colonialism, which happened in Goa, 1,000 years of invasions. Hindus have never invaded and colonialized, never converted people. Hinduism and Judaism are 2 faiths that do not proselytize. It's unbelievable. You see, and this is why, and this is the purpose of today's meeting, and I trust it's going to be the first of many, many more. I'm very proud to say that this is the first time there has been an actual, tangible, concerted effort to have Jews and Hindus come together to finally fight the same enemy, the Zohran Mamdani, sorry to say it, of the world. And essentially, we're going to touch upon this lie of colonialism, which will feed into the lie of the caste system. First of all, the colonizers came in and they took basically a Portuguese concept of castas, which was foreign to India, to Bharat as we call it, right? And they took that and implemented it into the so-called jati system. They took a concept that was largely traditional, where crafts of certain lineages would be passed down from generation to generation. If you were a scholar, you would train your children in that same trade. If you were a craftsperson, if you were someone who was a sailor or a warrior, you would train your next of kin to carry out that lineage, tradition, a sense of pride, a family coat of arms, whatever you want to call it. And they decided that they wanted to divide society in order to conquer and control them. So they took the Portuguese concept of caste, which actually existed in Portugal, and I want to get into this. I want to show you this graphic that shows this. Where is that graphic? Here it is. Let's fast forward to this. Here. This is literally what the Portuguese were implementing. Depending on where you were from and who you married with, you were attributed a certain title, a certain label. So racist, right? And mixed race individuals had all these different names. And how do you keep up with this? It's so crazy. I guess they had a lot more time on their hands before social media. But essentially, they took this concept and superimposed it onto the Indian subcontinent. And that is where caste came from. That's exactly where it was derived from. And it's something that, believe it or not, is haunting and completely affecting Hindus in America today and in the West today. And I'm gonna jump back to it, but I want to talk about this genocidal conquest, where 40% of the population. I just want to talk about Walter Rand. Maybe you may have heard of him. He said the Islamic conquest of India is probably the bloodiest story in history, and he's right. And in fact, the same exact conquest is happening in the modern day. It's happened in Bangladesh. I personally was very disappointed to see the forced ousting of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from Bangladesh, who was, believe it or not, kind of a neutralizing force. She was, of course, forced out by Islamists. The cousins or brothers, I guess you can say they're supplanting the Muslim Brotherhood, if you've heard of Jamaat-e-Islami. So what's happening now is the Muslim Brotherhood, which is affiliated with the CARES, the ISNAs, the ICNAs, the MUNAs of the US names, Qatari-backed usually, they are now, it's a numbers game. The Muslim Brotherhood is actually re-imaging itself into Jamaat-e-Islami. And what it has to do with is a numbers game. There's a big upsurge in South Asians who are coming to the West. And the Muslim Brotherhood is realizing that they had to switch their allegiances over to conquer using the Jamaat-e-Islami narrative in order to carry out their annihilation of Western ideology. Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, right? Exactly. And the genocide in Bangladesh lasted over 50 years, 2 generations, almost wiped out. You will see, as Uri pointed out before, what a genocide actually looks like. This is a genocide of Hindus in Bangladesh. Conversely, you will see Pakistan. Pakistanis have seen a surge of Muslims and Pakistan, you'll see that Pakistan and the Muslims in India have continued to grow, but the number of Hindus has continued to remain the same. In fact, there aren't many Hindus left in Pakistan. I actually know the last Jewish person, in Pakistan, who actually, Fishal Ben Khalid is his name, Fishal, and he actually is making, I think he already made Aliyah to Israel. So technically there are no more Jews left in Pakistan even. So imagine that, and Hindus are almost non-existent there. So these are the literal graphics that show what genocide looks like, a very, very similar trajectory to what Jews are experiencing in various parts of the world. And I want to talk a little bit about the caste misinformation campaign. Basically, these are some examples of how Hindus are being targeted in the West now. I'm very pleased that I'm working on a film. Well, it's actually done, and we're submitting it. We submitted to several film festivals. It's going to be available for public viewing. We have some screenings going on. It's called Cascade: The Untold Story. And this is everything almost on this, actually everything, yes, basically, on this screen, post 2018, actually post 2021, is a result of Cascade, where a Cisco executive, Sundar Iyer, you may have heard of him, was actually targeted by the California Civil Rights Department for so-called caste discrimination, which was found to be completely baseless. The case was dismissed. It so turned out that the disinformation that was provided to the California Civil Rights Department was provided by Equality Labs. Have you heard of it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Who's backing that? Who's funding it bankrolled? George Soros. Precisely. Tanmuzi Soundarajan, who, first of all, I want to clarify something here. In America, caste is not even an afterthought. There is, things were dealt with in India, being dealt with. Indians, Hindus come to America they don't even operate at the same, they don't think about caste. And yet, the left and these radical elements are trying to superimpose caste onto the Hindu and Indian diaspora communities in the US because they're a growing, thriving population that is on par with and even surpassing the Jewish population in terms of success, in terms of voting power. The votes don't matter. And they are not traditionally Democrats anymore. They're actually more conservative, or some of them are switching over to the Republican Party because they feel disenfranchised, they feel lost, they don't feel the Democratic Party holds their principles anymore. It's become a progressive, craziness, and they're a threat. And so they cook up these false narratives in order to demonize them, in order to castigate them. Castigate, funny, huh? And so there's a rise in anti-Hindu hate in America. This film, I urge all of you to see it. I will happily share the information. I think I mentioned that we won 4 awards so far for Best Documentary in film festivals. And where is this? Okay, now we're going to get to the juicy part also. There's a lot of common patterns that occur between both the Jewish anti-Semitic targeting and the anti-Hindu targeting. They're ideologically driven, they're backed by foreign influence operatives. It's the Pakistani ISI, there's Qatar, there is the George Soros funded institutions. You may recognize some of the faces and names on here. So you can see Stephen Shaw, and he's actually Jewish, and he runs Jewish Voices for Peace. Have you guys heard of this organization?
Yes.
Of course, right?
Very corrupt.
We like him very much. And then we have Sunita Viswanath, who's the founder of Hindus for Human Rights.
Yep.
They happen to be husband and wife.
Oh no.
Jewish and Hindu, husband and wife, who are completely on the other side of where they should be. But at the very, very top, you have this Open Society Foundation. Ever heard of them?
Yes.
Yes.
George Soros.
George Soros.
Funding this entire operation.
Wow.
And what you do is you come down here, you can see American Muslims in Palestine, SJP. I was a journalist, by the way, for 20 years. I worked with CNN, Fox News, Breitbart News. I was literally on college campuses covering the BDS movement on campuses 15 years ago. And yeah, she was there. I got attacked a few times by Black Lives Matter, it was very, very fun. But I was trying to, sound the alarm and saying these students that are here right now advocating for BDS in the college campuses are going to end up getting out, voting, running for office, becoming elected officials. That's happening today. Zurhan Mamdani, there's more in California, all over anything that happens in California and New York, it follows a trend. All the worst policies start out in these 2 states. Well, California makes its way over to New York, over to DC, and then slowly the cancer spreads across the rest of the nation. So the BDS movement goes up. Anyway, you can see this. I don't want to bore you with the details, but you can see the trend here. You follow the money trail, you follow the same who's who, you can see that somehow they're all interlaced, they're all interconnected. This is, just to talk about the parallels between both communities, diaspora communities. There's a Parsi exodus to India. Zoroastrianism was the mother faith of Iran, right? The Persian Empire. And again, they had to flee persecution in Persia. That's why Zoroastrians and Parsis are very similar to also the Jews. In fact, the Zoroastrians are called the Jews of India, the Parsis. And there's still a small population. The reason why their population is dwindling also, fun fact, is they're not allowed to intermarry and they can't convert into the faith. So it's a very, very difficult, thing they're facing. But it's a definite clash of civilizations. There's no doubt about it. So I want to invite Uri back up here again, so we could talk a little bit more about how we can take actionable items there's a lot more to it, but I think it's important for everyone here to understand that one thing I didn't mention, which I apologize for, which I have to mention here, is many of you may have heard of the Pahalgam attack. So, it occurred a few months ago. It was in March of this year, where Is it April? It was in April. Thank you.
April 22nd.
April 22nd. Thank you for that. So there were a bunch of Muslims that went into a region of India, and they literally were forcing all the men, to pull their pants down to see if they were circumcised. And the ones who were not, because they're not from the Abrahamic faith or Hindu, they were called out as being non-Muslim. So they slaughtered them.
Wow.
This year, and the media didn't cover this. This barely received a bleep on the radar of the media, mainstream media, except for on social media, where anyone who actually took to Twitter and the alternative media sources was able to report about it. And of course, in response, India launched Operation Sindoor, which resulted in the US, President Trump coming in, mediating between Pakistan and India. Catastrophe. So I'm not going to say it's as large scale as October 7th, but that was in a sense India's October 7th.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wanted to point that out to everyone. Look, this is far from over. Ori, please, yeah, I invited you up. We'd love to now just open it up to questions. I know we're running out of time. Please.
So good. So, I've met some people from this pub here at another meeting where we've come together in a smaller group to discuss, our commonalities and our common enemies, unfortunately. And I think that what we have both struggled with, both groups have struggled with, is the
Would
younger
you
gen.
arrange for another mic for the
Yeah.
person?
Yes.
I think what we've struggled with is the younger generation. Is how it is that some of them have really just drank that woke progressive Kool-Aid in our communities, and education. That's what we do at our center. But I think that's where you can maybe, if you can speak a little bit, and obviously the two of you together should just travel around and speak everywhere. But I think that's.
So I just want to quickly address that. At Hindu Action, we run a program called Pathfinders Initiative. We literally are getting young Hindus to get civically engaged, to educate them. It's for everyone, but one way is to get everyone that you know, just call up 3, 4, 5 people and just tell them to come to these talks, provide them with materials, get them to talk to their kids about it. That's the first step.
So first of all, I want to reaffirm your question. And I think that this goes back to, other direction. This goes back to here. Because again, the question is, there's a question about how we're doing now, but the ultimate question is, what world do we want our children and grandchildren to look at? And the way the world is dividing, we can really go into the weeds of the Gaza conflict and the ratio and also the relationship between India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. We really get lost, and from all the weeds and all the trees, we miss the forest. And the forest is this, because we look at the world, and the world is now unfolding into a new global order. It's a new global order, and it's right here in front of us, and nobody's talking about it because they're afraid. But if we don't notice that the world that is now being organized is between these two ways of life, we're going to miss the vote. And so your question is spot on. What I recommend is education. There's no other way. This is something I shared because I think it's very important. A lot of the issues that are coming up have to do with a lot of terms that have been thrown around are legal terms. Apartheid, colonialism, international law, all these things. This is a course offered by a group of high-level scholars in international law. You can also get a discount if you want, if you use the QR code over there, the code URIG. But it's an investment. You have to be lethal when it comes to your knowledge and your ability to communicate that knowledge. And talking to those kids who come back from college who drank the Kool-Aid and their parents. Because their parents don't know how to talk to those kids. If their parents sit down and go through a course and they have the knowledge base, we have to be knowledgeable. We're not going to wave a wand. There's no Harry Potter. There's no magic pill. We have to be knowledgeable and we have to be confident in order to build our own knowledge base and build our own ability to talk to them.
Far too many people, sorry, I'm gonna take a question again, and then I'm gonna get to it, yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. Thank you, Mr. Pankaj, for inviting me here. My name is Danny Martinez. I'm proud LGBTQ. I'm immigrant, and it's so disgusting that my LGBT community is like LGBTQ for Palestine. How disgusting is that? Thanks to Mr. Pankaj, I went to DC to Hindu Action. I believe Mr. Pankaj can correct me. And I saw on the slides they were talking about Hindu temples are being vandalized right here in New York State, in the United States, all over the country. So we have to keep this fight. We have to keep fighting. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's completely counterintuitive for LGBTQ communities to be supporting the Palestine. You know why? They'll kill you.
So I have some comments and a question. The question is, where was CIA, Mossad, and Shin Bet when this attack happened, and how did it happen? Number one. Number two, the thing is, you spoke about the Muslim Brotherhood. The extension of that is CAIR, C-A-I-R, which is in every town, every mosque, everybody's life, and nobody says anything or does anything. And if that keeps expanding, we are not going to survive as Muslims and Hindus in this country or wherever.
To this point, I would like to say something. Thank you, and I'm very happy that you just brought this up because, so I'm just going to come up for 1 minute and talk. So I'm a director at End Jew Hatred. For those of you who are aware of what we do, we're a Jewish civil rights movement. But as you said so perfectly towards the end of your presentation, fighting Jew hatred, fighting anti-Semitism is not a fight just for Jews. It's a fight for Western civilization. It's a fight against radical Islamism. And it's truly a fight for all minority civil rights. So that's where we are now. But to this point of CAIR, one big part of what we do as a movement, again, we're nonpartisan. We welcome everybody of every faith. We, everyone from whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever you might be, to fight this fight with us. And in addition to on-the-ground rallies and events like this that, we really do want to embrace allyship and go even bigger with these types of events, we also have something called digital activism. And what our digital activism is, we have volunteer attorneys and volunteer researchers that have been doing a deep dive on organizations such as CAIR, Muslim Brotherhood, what is going on college campuses, what is going on in the government, what is going on with these student governments and the BDS votes, etc., etc. And we turn all of the research that is done into thoroughly researched emails that we then get out to everybody in our WhatsApp groups, which we reach about 50,000 people now. I know that we have some people here that are in our WhatsApp groups with an easy clickable click and send this email, for instance, if it's about CAIR, to Leo Terrell, along with CC, the administration, CC, Stefanik, CC everybody to have this information, and we see that what we're getting over to them is then being used in these government hearings. It's being used to really move the needle on not just Jew hatred, but on what is happening in our civilization. So I implore all of you, we have so many allies in our End Jew Hatred groups. It's an admin only situation, so there's no chatter. Every day we're sending out action items, some on the bigger CAIR issues, some might be smaller civil rights issues, but there's no issue too small that doesn't bubble into something much bigger. And it's all just very easy. It's 5 minutes a day, essentially, of activism that can really make a difference. So after this, and thank you so much for what you just taught me, was incredible. But find me and I can give you a QR code to join. And please share it with your trusted group. So the CAIR situation was a perfect segue into that. Yeah. Thank you.
And Michelle is endjewhatred.org.
It's endjewhatred.com, and on Instagram at endjewhatred, one word. And we're also doing a big initiative, End Hate in Education. So K-12, figuring out exactly what the rot that's going on there is and really digging into curricula nationwide. We work with the executive director, Bali Lerner of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. Incredible doing initiatives together. But we're doing a lot of good work, and we also have fellows on college campuses. This is a fun fact for all of you to know. On about 50 campuses, we have End Jew Hatred fellows. Not all are Jewish. And that's the key here, because it is not a Jewish fight. It's an everybody fight. So we have African American fellows. I don't know if we have any Hindu fellows. I should look into that because we have a campus director. But this is where we have to start. This is what this fight is all about. It's a joint struggle, a joint fight, and we have to be loud and proud. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. And Michelle and I are actually cousins also. So she's amazing. Yeah, please.
I just want to answer your first question. And I addressed this in my first introduction. There was information. I'll tell you even more of that. They were intelligence officers who wrote reports and sent up the flagpole the very idea that Hamas is planning such attack. There were women observers, military observers, who saw Hamas practice and train, and they were dismissed. They were dismissed. Why? Because of the paradigm, because of the misunderstanding of our enemy. The Israeli establishment as a whole, and it starts from the military intelligence, and the statecraft, the politicians, were locked into a paradigm that Hamas is deterred. It's not that they thought that Hamas are about to become Zionists. They knew that they're hateful, and they wanted to kill Israel, and they wanted to kill Jews, but they believed that at the end of the day they were deterred, meaning that they preferred to receive buckets of money from Qatar and send the children to drive fancy cars in Abu Dhabi, and get rich, threaten once in a while, send a rocket for their rhetoric, but they were not ready to risk all-out war with Israel. And that was the belief that led the entire establishment to dismiss information that meant otherwise. Because otherwise, if you accept that information, that means going into Gaza. You see what that looks like. Nobody wanted this. We knew the price. Nobody wanted to do it, and so that information was ignored. And the result is that the reality bit us in our face. Yes?
She need the mic.
Maybe. Was that information came from women? Possibly. I wouldn't put that out of consideration. There were the women, young women, who saw this, and they were dismissed as hysterical. So yes, that's also part of it.
We're gonna take I'm just gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna do three more questions. Okay, that's okay.
These two gentlemen.
I don't have a question. My name is Suresh Khanna. I belong to Durga Temple of Westchester, and I just want to add on a few things. Jews came to India after the fall of the Second Temple of Solomon, and they built their first synagogue, and in 13th century in Cochin we still exist. Having said that, they really mingled very well. Second thing I want to say is about Zoroastrianism. They came the same way. Everything else who came there, they believed in destruction. And about this, a few things I just want to bring it. I know we're running out of time. Yeah, is the first time the Jewish state recognized that liberation of Haifa and another city in Israel was not liberated by the Europeans, it was liberated by the Indian army. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, Mr. Pankaj.
Absolutely. I just want to do one more.
Mr. Pankaj has a question.
Okay. Yeah, we're all okay with everyone. We're just running a little bit short on time.
Thank you very much. I have only one generation in opening up their minds, but the problem is that there's such a big wall of misinformation that we're not able to crack. Would you have any suggestions how to just crack in, and then we'll handle the rest? Our problem is we're not able to even find a way to crack.
Of course, thank you. I'm going to start answering that. I'm going to go through middle schools, elementary schools, high schools. It's crazy. The same thing is happening with Hindus. Anti-Hindu, Hindu Dvesha, hate. And so we're going to be partnering up to help pass this together. 100%. It starts there. Facts, facts, facts. It's going to be uncomfortable, and everyone's become so emotionally, driven and triggered. You just have to hold the line and go with the common sense, practical, fact-based things.
Look, this is a very important question, and I'm asked this question a lot, especially by parents and grandparents whose children are turning away from their faith, from their home, from the way they were brought up. And they talk to me with tears in their eyes. They're heartbroken. This is a tragedy that's happening, and I know that we share this with our youth. There's no easy answer, but I can tell you this: you will never be able to bring somebody from their certainty to your certainty. If that's the expectation, then change it. You'll never have a conversation with somebody, and they'll say, "Oh, I see the light now. I'm now switching sides. I'm anti-woke." That's not going to happen. What you can do is bring them from their certainty to a level of uncertainty. And you do that by asking questions. Because if you scratch the surface, all these sismaot, how do you say in English? These are all just memes. They talk in memes. They talk in generalizations. They use big titles. Scratch the surface a little bit, and you'll find that they don't actually know. Apartheid, genocide. What is an ethno-state? Do you know what genocide is? Do you know what apartheid looks like? What did it look like? Okay, what are the elements of apartheid in South Africa? Do they exist in Israel? And ask questions that will force them to face the fact that their certainty, well, maybe it's not certain. And if they start asking questions, then it's a win. It's a win. But the expectation, again, it's not easy and it's not fast. You'll never get them from one certainty to the other. And it requires one more thing. You have to be lethal in your knowledge, in your own knowledge. And that's an uphill battle.
One more thing, guys, we're losing the numbers game here alone. And we saw the statistics, the Islamists are outnumbering the common sense people, the Jews, the Hindus, the ones who don't want to kill everyone who doesn't agree with them. And so that's why it's so important to reach out to people who are similar. The Hindus, now you have the introduction, Hindus and Jews, we can get this done together. 2 more questions.
Mr. Pankaj?
Yes.
Mr. Honorable Pankaj.
I'm taking this approach from a different angle. There is a website called 1minutesilentprayer.org. It tells you about how, from a human rights perspective, Hindus, Jews, Christians, Baha'i, all coming together. So it's not about Jews, it's not about Hindus, it's about human rights, civil rights. So when we focus there, we win. And it's about how to bridge the gap between the younger generation, what you mentioned. It's not that difficult either. It's not easy, but not that difficult. What if we have exhibits, talk about genocide, a Holocaust museum, pictures of victims of Holocaust. Same thing, 1971, Hindu genocide, pictures, have a moving museum, going to synagogue, temple, churches, and so forth.
Thank you, that's beautiful. We're going to work on that. Absolutely. Last question.
Hi, I just wanted to, we were talking much in a broader picture. I'm going to be very specific. I belong to Syosset School District. It's the largest school district in New York. I'm going to mention an incident where the Jews and the Hindus actually got together and get something done. We talk the talk, we don't walk the walk. So in Syosset, actually, when my kids were in school, we were seeing all these other holidays, the Jewish holidays and other holidays. So a Jewish friend of mine said, "Oh, you guys celebrate a holiday?" I said, "Yeah, we do." And I spoke about Diwali to them. And they said, "Why don't you approach the board? Because there's so many Indians, so many Hindus in Syosset. And how come they don't have a holiday?" And we never thought about that. It was a Jewish friend who said, "You know what, you should have a holiday, let your kids know about holidays." We quote unquote, we are secular, we don't care much about educating our kids about Hinduism. So we did a petition, we needed 100 signers. Again, thanks to the Jews, they all signed up for the petition. It goes to the board, and the board, once they see 100 petitions, they put it up for a vote. And they put it up for a vote, and it's a side thing, so a Muslim friend approaches me and says, "Oh, you guys doing a Hindu festival? We want to also come out with a petition." I said, "You know what? You need 100," and at that time there were not. I don't think so. There were 100 Muslims in Sahasra district. So don't worry about it. I'll get 100 petitions. So she goes to the local mosque in Westbury, gets 500 petitions. So anyway, long story short, their thing was also up for a vote. So it was a big gathering, about 200, 300 school board members. The community member from us described what Diwali is and explained the whole Diwali thing to them. And it went for a vote. And in the meantime, I see these Muslims, some of them I didn't even know lived in Sahasra. They packed the place up. And when the vote came, obviously the Jews and the Hindus stood up and voted for Diwali, and that's why that was approved. And none of the Muslims stood up to vote for this holiday.
So bad.
And then
so
when
bad.
the Muslim vote came in, the Jews and the Hindus stood up. So that's where we are at, where they are at. So, it's good in that sense that we saw and we live and let live. But just the small community, and there were these girls who didn't want to stand up to vote for a Hindu holiday. So the mindset is where we have to get to in school districts. And it starts in education, not parents talking, is the teachers need to know about Hinduism, about Judaism. Actually, they obviously know much more about Judaism than Hinduism. So to her point is we have to reach the school district and educate the school administrator to change the Hindu curriculum. The first chapter in that book is about casteism, how bad it is.
That's right. That's
So-
how they introduced Hinduism through a very false.
That is the number one, because our kids are, oh my God, we are so bad. That's the first thing my daughter came back from 6th grade and told us, oh, we have caste system.
Can I make a comment?
I have to, we're gonna have to stop, but I'm going to provide, first of all, I want to urge everyone to please, there's some material over there on the table for Hindu Action. Obviously, please take Uri's information. Please make sure you also, take a picture of this, please. And also, please also take a picture of Hindu Action. Obviously, it's important.
Welcome. My closing word is just simply be the light. We are outnumbered. We're outnumbered. And if you're Jewish, I urge you to do one thing. Jews are on the scale, and everybody on the scale thinks that they're normal, and the people above them are crazy, and the people below them are not even Jewish. So just do one more thing. Do a Shabbat. Send your kids. Just one little thing, a little bit more, to strengthen your Jewish identity, your Jewish heritage, your Jewish roots, and show that to your kids, and be the light. We are the light. Here together, Jews and Hindus, we are the light, and that's how we shine through the darkness.
Perfect message.
Bali, sorry, Bali's here. Yeah, Bali's here from the Holocaust Memorial.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here today. I just have one quick thing to say. My daughter, who was at the University of Michigan when October 7th happened, we had brought the son of Hamas. For those of you that don't know him, okay.
Yes.
So he basically, his father was one of the starters of Hamas, and he kind of went to the other side, okay, and he realized that it was insane what was happening, and he went on to the other side, and he's been very vocal about it. So I just want to say one thing to tag onto Uri, what you said, that I think is the most important, and it kind of goes into what you said about Sayasat. And he said this to her, to my daughter, who's a Zionist, who's pro-Israel, but again, college student, loves everyone, lives in this land that everybody might be equal. And he said to her, you're projecting your Western values onto them. They do not have those Western values. And I think that is what your point is that we assume they are okay, it's not that bad, because we cannot comprehend that somebody would have a child just for the purpose to kill other people and that they get rewarded for it. So I think that's the biggest thing is, again, you stood up for somebody else. The Jews stood up for somebody else. They would not stand up for you. At some point, we have to wake up and we have to realize who the enemy is. And we have to stop excusing them and stop projecting our values onto them. They have shown us who they are, that repeatedly. We have to stand up together. And that's all I want to say, because that was like really a point that you were saying, but again, this came from him as well. It just stuck with me, so.
They're not hiding it.
They're not hiding it.
Not at all.
No, it's actually
Not at all.
acceptable now according to them. And you know, Orina and I were talking about this earlier, how anti-Semitism has never gone away. Anti-Hinduism has never gone away. But they've come to a point now where they're actually more comfortable displaying it. And so I just want to give one last, closing remark from, what's your name again? I apologize.
Indu. So she's doing something on the in
Yeah, hi. Good evening. I'm at the tail end of the program. I work with the Orthodox religious Jewish organization. My honors are over there, and so I'm very much familiar with what's going on for the last almost 35 years. Being a dietitian, I'm in a school in Dixels where the principal approached me about 3 years ago that can you do something for Diwali in our school? So I said, okay. So I did a whole Diwali presentation there. And now we are being invited in a school in Brooklyn for about 200 children. I'm going there next Friday, and we'll be doing a Diwali presentation for the students over there. So the teachers, it comes when you talk about the schools and the little children, it basically comes from the teachers that now because Diwali, of course, you know, we all fought for the Diwali holiday. Now everybody knows what Diwali is. For us to go into the school system, even if from 200 children, 10 children will remember Diwali, that will make a difference for 10 more later on. So we are doing that, and of course, definitely, what you are doing is remarkable. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. We're just gonna close it out for tonight. Sure. Please go ahead. I don't want to exclude anyone.
Everywhere I listen,
Yeah.
the nomenclature used is the Judeo-Christian. That we have to save the Judeo-Christian civilization and Western civilization and Western values. I think you need to add Hindu to that.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
No. What I'm saying is that word has to be used together.
Yes.
Because there are 33% Christians in the world, 1% Jews in the world, and there's another 25%. If you add the Hindus to it, it's a big number. And I think if it's a numbers game, you need to add us on, because
Yes.
we ourselves have been shy about it.
So
Yes,
just a reminder,
I love
work
her.
with Hindu Action. It's a Hindu organization, 100%. And it goes back to what I was saying. We can't win this alone. We're outnumbered. So thank you everyone for being here tonight. This is really
We do have
amazing.
Christian and Dharmic civilization. So this is something that's a good point. Thank you for the clarification, but we're on the same wave.
It makes
Yeah.
60% of the world population.
We're on the same wavelength. I agree with you. Thank you for the comment.
Everyone, please also, there's delicious food there. Please help yourselves. We're so grateful. This is the beginning of many, many more amazing, impactful events.